Hello, my name is Adam Asher from First Choice Fishing. I'm here just to show you some basic stuff of how to get started fishing. First off, if if you're a younger person wanting to get into fishing, you could pick up a rod usually between probably $10 to $20 for a little guy. Right here is just a standard Shakespeare rod. It's like a Taz edition pole. So this is primarily, it's a good all-around rod to get started and stuff like that, but further on in the video we'll go into tackle and what you want. But if you're a little guy, there's nothing wrong. This is how I started fishing, on a little Shakespeare rod, and standard button to cast and reel it, easy enough. But say if you're a little bit more, probably about 10 years old or so, maybe 9. Depends on the age, but this is a Zebco rod. This is a Jeff Gordon edition Zebco rod. This rod's actually really good. I actually sometimes still use it for fun. This is good for your tween years, I guess you could say, if you're really getting started into fishing. And there's not just new people watching this video. It's maybe people just want some helpful tips. But yeah, this video is designed for people that are fishing already and need tips, or people that are new into it. But this is a good rod for a new person to start fishing if they're in they're 8 to 12 years old. Now, say if you're more experienced, this is probably the way to go right here. If you just want to go out, you're an average fisherman, this is definitely the tackle you want to run. This is just an ugly stick ultralight with Shakespeare reel. The rod, you can pick it up at like a Walmart or a sporting goods store for about 30 bucks. And the reel I got off a Complete. That was about, I would say, about 15. So you could also buy a Complete. This is I think about 7 foot, and it's an ultralight. It's pretty shaky. Yeah, but this is really good primarily for everything. I've got 2 lake records on this pole, my hometown lake record. I got 2 of them on this ugly stick, so I mean I recommend a Shakespeare ugly stick combo from like Walmart. You can pick it up for about 25 or so bucks combo. Pretty good, and I still use it a lot today. Alright, now right here, here's what you standardly want. You don't necessarily need to, but you could get, if you're starting out fishing, tackle wise, you want to have maybe a little setup. You can have a little clear case full of some basic stuff. You do not need everything in here because this is just my standard tackle box, but you can get one of these for about $8.99. It's a Plano 1 tray. Very pretty nice tackle box. I mean, I use it for regular fishing. I've been getting into fly fishing lately, so I don't really have too much stuff, but yeah, for basic fishing, if you open it up, obviously plenty of storage. Obviously mine's packed, but besides that, what you would want probably when you start fishing, depending on your skill level and stuff, I would pick up a bag of bobbers. These the Thill ones, they seem pretty nice. I know my buddy in Kentucky uses those. Or you could use something. I have like one of every size. You just pick something up like that. You're gonna want these, so definitely get some bobbers. You're definitely gonna want your basic scissors, your pliers, all that kind of good stuff. You're gonna want some weights, because if you're using a bobber, obviously with a worm and hook, possibly a salmon egg, at least in New Jersey, you can get just a little box of weights. Then in here, what do I got? I got hooks. You want to have hooks, obviously. That's how you catch fish. But yeah, as far as like getting into it, that's about all you would need is just weights, your basic tools, some bobbers, some hooks, and that's pretty much as basic as it can get. And it's going to get more complex in this video, so yeah. Alright, now the basic, most beginner way to catch fish would be, you would be going for a panfish when you start out. And like I showed you before, these rods are fine. this little rod, there's sunnies, bluegill around New Jersey area. There might be some exotic, you know, if you're in another country, some crazy exotic panfish, but honestly, something as little as this would work. And if you're a little older, you know, you're a little taller, you want a rod about, like, it's pretty decent. I mean, this is probably, I'm like, yeah, it's probably a good 4 foot. So about a 4 foot rod will do fine. Any rods really don't matter for panfish at all. You don't need, if you're going primarily for panfish, you know, just use a light line. You don't need to go crazy and spend a lot of money on really heavy line for fish that may weigh a pound. So, I mean, don't go too crazy on fishing for fun or fishing panfish or teaching your kids how to fish, you know, if they want to get into it. But really, just don't go crazy. Light tackle, nothing really to it. And now to show tackle for panfish. Alright, for panfish, probably the most easiest fish to catch. They go for everything. Of course, you want your bobbers. If you're going for panfish, pick this stuff up. You want small things. Now, here's where these come into play. The mini tails, I mean, I got these real sparkly. Just depends on the condition is when you pick the bait, which we'll have tutorials on later on when we get into the more advanced stuff. But, yeah, right here, like spiral stuff. Just any small jig or, you know, worm and bobber. That's probably the easiest way I can tell you. But, yeah, easily. These things right here will catch you plenty of panfish. You don't got to go nuts. Alright, now I want to do as best as I can with the tackle that I have to show you different types of fishing. So we're going to start off with trout. If you're going for trout fishing, what you'd want to look for, this is not primarily what you'd want to look for, but it works, I guess. I don't have a trout set up yet, but you would want a very ultralight pole, probably about a 5 or 6 foot pole, with a line weight of 2 to maybe 5 pounds. Usually they're 2 to 4, but you just check the markings on the bottom there, 2 to 4, and you want a very small reel. I don't know about gear ratios, but all you want is you want a slow retrieve, and you want something super light and pretty small. You don't need something crazy big for trout at all. And yeah, now we're going to get into the tackle for trout. Alright, and now for tackle for trout. Of course, still using the same box, but you guys, if you want to travel lighter, I just throw everything in one box. That's my tip, really. But really, if you're going for specifically trout, just get a little clear case, a little Plano case. Plano makes them pretty nicely. Got a lot of compartments. Just get a $4 little case and carry your tackle that way. But for some tackle for trout, I can tell you what, one of the only things you need. A natural salmon egg. It doesn't have to be any brands. These are just big boy natural salmon eggs for trout. This is a specifically trout-made bait. They reek. They smell terrible. But hey, if you can get a trout or even a catfish, honestly, we've gotten catfish off these before, but that. If you don't use a salmon egg, obviously salmon egg, you're gonna want bobbers again. You're going to want hooks. You're going to want weights. You're going to want scissors, just, you know, pliers, everything we talked about before, basic stuff. But then you could actually get into jigging, where, open up my jig pouch, which, I mean, it's endless, really. You can get small little baits like this. You know, use anything to make it naturally float. Just, anything small. Really, they have such small mouths. Any small jigs don't have to be like that. You can get little small spirals. I'm looking for them here. Like this, spiral tails, just any kinds. Not too big though. But yeah, salmon egg, anything ball-like they really like. So that's my tips for at least trout. And now for bass fishing. It's one of the things I really like to do. But here's what I primarily use. If I'm just fishing off a bank or something like that, an ugly stick, just ultralight. You could really use any kind of, I haven't really found a problem. You got an ugly stick, standard ultralight, like I said, Shakespeare reel. Just check the ratio on this. It's just a standard balance ratio of, I think it's yeah, it's 5:2 to 1. So, and the line I have on here is 12 pound. You don't need that. You could probably go to an 8, but I use 12-pound line. Pretty thick stuff, standard line. I think it's Stren in a green color. Yeah, just really basic ultralight setup, but that's for poles for me. But except if I'm going on a boat or I'm going for bigger fish, I use an 8-foot Bass Pro Tournament Pro setup. It's very long, really long pole, really nice though. This thing has 8-pound lines on it. It's an 8 bearing system in there. Just fantastic rod, really. If I get on a boat, really nice to have that extra leverage. And obviously this is not a light. I mean, this thing is really stiff, so you can bring in pretty much, you can bring anything in with any pole. Just what are the odds of actually getting something crazy huge? So they're up there. So I have the bigger pole, you know, if I'm going on a boat, like I said. So boat fishing, bigger pole, 8-foot, 8-pound line. Get a nice drag system on there, but this is what I run at Bass Tournament Pro. Really like it. Or if you're fishing banks or something, I like to run an ugly stick ultralight with the Shakespeare reel with a 12-pound or 8-pound line. So that's the pole setups for bass. Now, bass fishing, so fun because bass literally will eat anything. So let me just go over some of, I mean, literally go pick up anything because bass are going to eat it. So they'll pretty much, yeah, like I said, eat anything they can get. So, I mean, you can get spiral tail jigs to creature baits to, you know, fish. Even, I mean, they'll go for huge stuff. They'll go for worms. They love worms, so get plenty of jigged worms. You know, black, good for night. You know, even the little stuff sometimes they'll go for. Mainly, you get bluegill and sunny chomping on that, though. But, yeah, some power bait, stuff like that. Just any black worms. And frogs come into play, too. You can, you know, jig a frog. These ones are pretty cool. I got these at Walmart for $1. These actually come with weed guards attached to them. I got them in brown and green. See what they're going for. I don't know about salmon eggs, but, I mean, you could use them. Yeah, just worms again. You could use bobbers, hooks, real live worms. You can use herring if you want to use live bait, little minnows and stuff like that. You know, rigs, you know, a bunch of rigs and stuff like that. You could use lures like crankbaits, jointed baits, top water baits, regular minnows. Just, you know, these are great, you know. It's pretty good. You know, make sure you have hooks, swivels if you prefer. Spinners, they love spinners. You can catch nice big bass off spinners. Yeah, pretty much everything's generic with the whole weight, scissors and pliers, everything like that. Bobbers, hooks, live baits. And yeah, you can really jig with some frogs, poppers. You can really experiment of how, you know, really what works for you and your area of how to catch the bass in that area. Alright, next is catfish. Now what you want, you could actually run, if you want to go for big catfish, I would run a pretty big pole. You can even use saltwater tackle. I mean, it gets that crazy sometimes in the freshwater for catfish. But I would use my Bass Pro rod here. Like I said earlier, I use for bigger stuff. So this is what I have here. You know, it'll bring in 20 pounds of fish. So I don't know if I'm catching a 25 pound catfish, but if I am, hopefully this rod will last. 8 foot. I would get something, you'd want to get something with a more sensitive tip. This obviously is really stiff. This is a good bass pole, just all around. But you'd want something heavier tackle, pretty heavy tackle, and you want pretty heavy, you know, equipment, and then you want a pretty sensitive tip so you could really feel, you know, you could attach a bell. You can get the bells on there, and then you could really let them sit, and you can hear them tinging. There's many ways to catch catfish, but I guess that's my tip for at least rods. Just like I said, heavy tackle, light at the tip, so we can attach a bell or something like that. And use a little bit of a heavier line, probably about anywhere to 10 to 20 pound line, honestly, at least, because I mean these things, you can have a big catfish on the side of your boat, and next thing you know, either your rod goes or your line, but obviously we all rather the line, so make sure you come well equipped for a catfish. Alright, and that was the tutorial on how to fish for what we do, panfish, to bass, to trout, to catfish, and then to really anything if you're starting out. But yeah, beginners or advanced, I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll be having more advanced tutorials as we go on, so we ask you guys all to subscribe. And yeah, this is Aaron Lasher for First Choice Fishing, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have some luck out there. See ya.